Three students built a spaceship and became gods on an ancient planet. Audiobook, The Echoes of the Second Earth. Chapter 1. The Fractured World. The year was 2149, and Earth was exhausted. Clouds moved slower now, painted thick with ash and dust. The sky had long stopped pretending to be blue. Instead, it wore a worn-out gray, like the faded photographs of better times. Beneath that lifeless sky, cities buzzed not with joy or rhythm, but with noise, mechanical, programmed, relentless. Somewhere in the east, two countries were burning again. The newsfeed didn't say which. Borders didn't matter much anymore. Nations had blurred into zones of control, mostly run by artificial governance systems, corporate defense contracts, and loyalty chips. Alliances shifted daily, and peace had become a fragile rented thing. Children no longer learned history. They studied algorithmic ethics, drone code, and microreactor engineering. There was no time for the past. The future came too fast, and it demanded minds sharp enough to survive it. In this version of Earth, brilliance was not rare. It was required. That's why, far beyond the reach of the wars and underground rebellions, hidden under a domed megastructure in the neutral skies of former Switzerland, stood a facility known simply as UGM, the University of Global Mechanics. It wasn't a campus. It was a world. Suspended in midair by magnetic stabilization and wrapped in climate regulation fields, the university trained only 400 students every cycle. It admitted minds, not people. Age didn't matter. Nationality didn't exist. Your brain either sparked the future, or you never saw its gates. Among those 400 minds were 3 young men, roommates, collaborators, and soon, legends. They didn't know it yet, but history was already watching them. Minds that bled stars. UGM had no teachers in the traditional sense. It had architects, biogenetically enhanced mentors with neural access to the knowledge net, speaking through voice-laced light and quantum simulation. Students didn't memorize. They experienced. You didn't pass tests. You survived them. Learning here was brutal, immersive, and competitive. Students worked with fusion cores, antimatter chambers, biological consciousness models, and dark energy siphons by their second term. Mistakes were often fatal. Success was near godlike. In dormitory block C7, Unit 14, Theta, housed 3 of the most gifted minds of their generation. Aaron Valen, the visionary tall, thin, always slouching in thought. His skin was pale from too many hours indoors, his eyes a shade of green that always seemed lost in some distant star. Aaron had grown up in a crumbling arcology on the coast of the former Netherlands. His parents were technosurgeons, constantly away, reconstructing minds damaged by war trauma. Aaron was raised more by machines than people. His fascination with space began the day he hacked a lunar probe feed at age 11 just to see real silence. He believed in peace, in the idea that humanity could begin again somewhere untouched. But beneath his calm voice lived a quiet storm, one that sought control over chaos and feared being forgotten. He dreamed of building something that would outlive him. Silas Dorn, the manipulator lean, dark-skinned, always upright, a jawline sharp like he carved it himself. His eyes didn't miss details. They calculated. Silas was the only son of a weapons CEO from the Arctic Union. He was raised behind titanium walls in a tower of polished violence. War was language in his house. Science was the art of domination. Yet Silas didn't want his father's empire. He wanted to master the variables that made people predictable. He believed emotions were flaws. Yet, secretly, He feared dying without having ever truly felt something real. So he studied psychology along with astrophysics. He didn't build machines. He built outcomes. He dreamed of reshaping civilizations from within. Leo Tanaka, the wanderer shorter than the other two. Messy hair, a constant grin trying to hide how tired he always looked. Leo was born on the floating city of Osaka Skyport. His mother died during the Second Pacific collapse, and his father, a poet-turned-engineer, raised him with books and broken machines. He wasn't the top of the class, but he was the glue of their trio. Leo had a laugh that made silence feel warmer, and a mind that could balance quantum engines with one hand while doodling dragons with the other. He believed humanity could be better, but only if people kept their wonder. His greatest fear was watching the world become something too cold to care. He dreamed of exploring. Forever. The three met on their second cycle. Their project, a prototype for theoretical light-speed traversal using a hybrid fold-pulse drive and graviton stabilization. No one expected them to succeed. But within 8 months, they hadn't just succeeded. They had flown it. Unofficially, secretly, and impossibly. The ignition. The ship didn't have a name. Not yet. It rested in silence beneath Sector 9, far beneath the polished floors of UGM, where old reactor tunnels met forgotten freight lifts. This place wasn't on any schematics. It was a myth students whispered about, a place called the Abyss. But for Aaron, Silas, and Leo, it was home. The hidden hangar, the hangar was a rusted cathedral of steel and shadow. Leaking pipes hissed overhead. Broken drones lay like old bones in corners, and in the middle, suspended by magnetic tethers, was the ship, sleek, unfinished, shimmering in fragments of blue electrolyte. She was a paradox, primitive in design, yet powered by technologies that didn't officially exist. Aaron had designed the propulsion system. Silas reverse-engineered parts from military-grade tech. Leo made it fly. Each panel told a story of risk: stolen gravimetric coils, black-market AI chips, repurposed Starlink scaffolds. The ship was held together by genius, desperation, and their absolute refusal to wait for permission. The final check. "If we're wrong," Leo said, running diagnostics, "we might fold space into a paperclip." "Then let's hope it's a very big paperclip," Silas muttered, tightening a bolt on the stabilizer core. Aaron didn't laugh. His eyes were on the pulse core, 3 rings of light rotating in perfect harmony. If his calculations were off by even 0.02%, they'd be atoms spread across time. He inhaled slowly. Systems green. 1 charge, 1 second, 1 jump. The room felt too quiet. The flight, they weren't going far. Just from the subtunnel to the lunar test ring, roughly 384,000 kilometers. 1 second at light speed. Aaron stood at the interface. Silas monitored the gravitational shielding. Leo gripped the manual override just in case. "Ready?" Aaron whispered. The core screamed into motion. Light bent around the ship. Reality stuttered, and then nothing. Silence. Stillness. Then suddenly, they were on the moon. The UGM observation dome, still under construction, loomed behind them. Silas laughed. Actually laughed. "We did it," Leo whispered, hands trembling on the controls. Aaron didn't speak. He was looking at the stars. For the first time in human history, 3 students had torn the veil of light and come out the other side whole. Backlash. They didn't report the success. They couldn't. The ship was illegal. Their methods were criminal, and UGM's war-fueled administration would see this as a threat to power. But secrets have gravity. Within weeks, word spread. Someone had seen the jump. Security tightened. Instructors whispered, and an encrypted message found its way into their dorm room. What you did isn't just science. It's dangerous. But instead of fear, the message stirred something else in them. Ambition. If they could go to the moon in a second, where else could they go? The decision. 1 week later, UGM dormitories. The dorm room was dark, save for the flickering of a single holographic display suspended over Aaron's desk. Code danced across the screen, fast and furious, a blur of quantum logic and predictive pathways. Leo sat cross-legged on his bed, staring at a projection of old star maps. His fingers twitched nervously. He wasn't reading, he was imagining, dreaming. Silas paced like a caged wolf. 3 hours, 10 laps, no sleep. "We need to leave," he muttered again, "before they make this about control, before we're buried beneath national security." Aaron didn't look up. "We haven't even tested atmospheric entry." "Doesn't matter. We wait. We're done. They'll dissect the ship and call it theirs." Leo's voice was softer. "And what if we find something? Something real?" Silence. That word hung in the air like oxygen waiting for fire. Goodbyes. They didn't tell their families. Aaron typed a scheduled message to his mother. Delivery set 2 weeks later. "Don't worry, I'm alive. I did something important. I'll explain everything one day." Leo visited his sister. She was in a memory recovery clinic, her mind fractured by neural warfare when she was just 12. He held her hand for 10 minutes and said nothing. Silas stood outside his father's apartment. Never knocked. Just stared at the door, then turned away. Their futures ended quietly. No graduation, no ceremony, just a note left on a cracked dorm window. "We're not running. We're becoming." The final jump. Back in the abyss, the ship thrummed with anticipation. They didn't name her until that moment. Aaron placed a hand on the command node. "Eos, the dawn." Silas nodded. "Let's burn the sky." Leo whispered the coordinates. "Galaxy M73 Theta, System 5, Object X9, Earth-like readings, atmospheric resonance stable." It was just a guess. A hope. Aaron locked in the calculations. "Prep gravitational lensing. Activate fold drive. Charge pulse core." The countdown began. 3, 2, 1. And in a scream of light, the Eos vanished from Earth. It was like falling sideways through a mirror. Time inverted. Light curved. Gravity folded inward. Then, impact. The ship rattled, skidded, and shuddered against air pressure they hadn't accounted for. Alarms wailed. Silas wrestled the stabilizers. Leo's face lit with wild joy. "It's breathable." Through the cockpit glass they saw it. Forests, rivers, mountains capped in snow. And on the horizon, castles, stone towers, smoke rising from chimneys. It was like Earth in the 1200s, but untouched by their history. A kingdom beneath a binary sun. The landing. The ship touched down in a clearing just outside a dense forest. The trees were taller than anything on Earth, leaves broad and purple-tinged. The air smelled sweet and electric. They stepped out slowly. The grass whispered under their boots. A low wind curled around them like breath. No buildings, no machines, just wilderness and sky. And then, a horn. Far away, but closing in. The new world. The forest edge, planet X9, later named Virelia. The horn sounded again, closer now, 3 notes, rising like a warning. The forest swayed under wind pressure, but it wasn't natural wind. It was displacement, of hooves, of armor, of bodies moving as one. The boys crouched in the tall grass beside the Eos, the ship half hidden beneath a cloaking shimmer that flickered at the edges. "Don't make sudden movements," Aaron whispered. Leo's hand hovered over his scanner. "There's 10 of them. Maybe 12. Horses. Human life signs. Genetically 92% match to baseline Earth humans. Silas grinned. Medieval knights, I'll bet. God, this place is insane. The first rider broke through the tree line. Gleaming bronze-plated armor, chainmail hood, a scarred face half covered by a rusted helm. His eyes locked on the ship, then on them. Behind him, others emerged, mounted warriors holding spears tipped with black stone. No electricity, no visible tech. Just raw, ancient war. The leader barked something in a language none of them understood. Aaron raised both hands. Non-threatening. Hands up. The man dismounted, walked straight to Silas and touched his coat fabric, then yanked it as if to test its worth. He pointed to Leo's boots, barked another command. I think he wants us to kneel, Leo muttered. Not happening, Silas said, jaw locked, but Aaron was already dropping to one knee. The others followed. The tension broke. The leader grunted in approval, then motioned toward the woods. They're taking us somewhere, Aaron said, scanning facial expressions and posture. We're not prisoners, not yet, but we're definitely owned now. They walked 3 hours through brush and mud. The temperature was cool, the sky pale violet. Birds, like feathered serpents, sang from above, and trees bore glowing fruit that pulsed faintly in the dusk. As the forest cleared, the city appeared like something from myth. High stone walls, wooden gates reinforced with bone and iron, watchtowers burning oil, villagers in furs and linen, blacksmiths hammering under orange flame, priests chanting beneath banners of a sun split in two. A carved sign read, Avonhold. Inside, eyes followed the newcomers. Children stopped playing. Men whispered behind barrels. Women pulled cloaks tighter. We're aliens to them, Leo said quietly, and they don't even know what alien means. They were led to a long hall built from stone and timber. Torches lined the walls, and at the far end, a throne rose from the floor, wood and bones and shining red glass. Upon it sat King Caelric, gray-bearded, broad-shouldered. His left eye was made of hammered gold. He wore no crown. His silence ruled the room. He raised one hand. Everyone knelt, including their escorts. The king studied them. His gaze paused longest on Aaron. You're the clever one, Silas muttered. He sees something. Or he knows something, Aaron replied under his breath. Then the king spoke. One word, one phrase in the native tongue. Aaron's translator chip struggled, then blinked green. He said, Aaron's voice trembled. He said, Welcome back. Even hold secrets. They were not prisoners, but neither were they free. Aaron, Silas, and Leo were each given a chamber inside the outer ring of the stone citadel. Their rooms had no locks, but guards stood outside every door. Meals were brought on copper trays, mostly root stew, smoked meats, and bitter black bread. The water tasted like iron. The air smelled of damp stone, smoke, and something earthy, something alive. Leo had started drawing symbols. He wasn't an artist, but the runes carved into the citadel walls, spirals within spirals, kept finding their way into his sketchbook. These are genetic spirals, he said to Aaron. Look at this one. It mirrors CRISPR patterns. This one matches mitochondrial trees. Aaron nodded. It's impossible. Unless someone here knows. Silas leaned against the window, gazing at the distant market square where black-clad priests waved incense before bone-covered statues. I don't care about their symbols, he said. I care about that city wall. One detonation from the ship and this place bows. We're not colonizers, Silas. Number, but we're gods to them. Why act like servants when we could lead? A silence followed that. a heavy one. King Caelric summoned them for a feast on the third night. The hall blazed with torchlight. Musicians played strange instruments, flutes carved from horn, drums stretched with lizard hide. Dancers twirled in masks of gold and ash. The king wore a robe stitched with sunbursts and bleeding moons. Beside him sat his daughter, Maera, barefoot and fierce-eyed, her hair braided with copper. A translator was finally provided, an elderly scholar named Edric, whose mind was sharp and whose interest in their origins bordered on obsession. "You fell from the sky," Edric said, sipping fermented berry wine. "But not the first, I think." "What do you mean?" Leo asked. "Legends tell of sky-bringers, tall, fire-handed, cloaked in silver. They vanished, but their blood remained." He looked toward the king, and the king looked at Aaron. Divergence begins. After the feast, the trio walked under the night sky, 3 moons glowing above them. "I'm staying," Silas said. "What?" Leo blinked. "You heard me. I want to learn their politics, their fears. We introduce clean tech, solar grids, irrigation. They worship us. I could be king here." "That's not why we came," Leo whispered. "No," Silas said. "It's why I came." He turned and left. Aaron stood frozen. His mind was a storm. "You're not surprised," Leo said quietly. "I saw it coming. What about you?" Aaron didn't answer. He was watching the citadel walls, following the spirals, one leading toward the old tower at the edge of the compound, where no one was allowed. The Forbidden Tower. The air was colder near the tower. Aaron moved silently beneath a pale red moon, slipping past the guards during the hour of the silent horn, when the night watch prayed, their hands clasped over dagger hilts, eyes shut to the sky. The tower loomed against the stars. Ancient, twisted. Vines climbed its cracked stones like veins on brittle skin. Even the grass refused to grow near its base. They called it Hollow Spire. Aaron touched the old iron handle. It was warmer than the air. He pushed. The door creaked open. Dust choked the stairwell. Carvings lined the walls. Spirals, again, but sharper now. Violent, like teeth or claws. He climbed, step by aching step, until he reached a circular chamber glowing faintly blue. In its center, a pod. Not made of stone, not of this world. Steel. Earth steel. Pitted, old, and etched with an ancient insignia. United Global Science Directorate. 2145, this can't be real, Aaron whispered. That's 300 years before us. The pod had been cracked open from the inside. Vines had grown into it, wrapping around skeletal remains still wearing an exosuit. A console blinked. Aaron wiped off the screen. It hissed. Then a flickering hologram formed, a woman in a torn lab coat, eyes sunken, voice hoarse with desperation. "This is Dr. Alara Mendez, Expedition Echo. Anyone receiving this, don't contact Earth. Don't return. They knew we were coming. They waited. The people here, they're not native. They're engineered. Half us, half them. They made us gods, then prisoners, then fuel. If you land here, leave, or you won't be you much longer." The message ended. Aaron stood trembling. He looked at the bones again. Gods, prisoners, fuel. Then footsteps echoed behind him. He turned fast. Maera. She didn't speak. She simply looked at the bones, then at him. "You're not the first," she said, "I know. But you may be the last." Aaron's heart pounded. "Why? What are you?" Maera didn't answer. Instead, she pressed a pendant into his hand, a small crystal wrapped in black wire. "When it pulses red, run. Take Leo, leave Silas." "Why?" "Because Silas will stay," she said, "and they'll make him forget he ever wanted to leave." She vanished into the stairwell, her bare feet silent. The rise of Silas. The throne wasn't carved. It grew. From the roots of the sacred tree in the high valley, twisted into the shape of power itself. Silas sat on it now, bare-chested, cloaked in obsidian-black linen, his arms glinting with woven circuitry they once used to control their spacecraft. But he didn't speak like a man of Earth anymore. He spoke like them. "Bring forth the seers," he ordered. The villagers bowed in waves like wheat to wind. Men, women, and even children wore ash across their faces and the symbol of Silas's new reign, a sun pierced by 3 stars. Below the throne room, in a hollowed cave lined with rusted earth machinery and glowing algae, Leo was pacing. His hands were trembling, stained with blue from scanning local blood samples. The results were consistent. "This place is altering us," Leo muttered into his recorder. "Not just our genes, our thoughts, our instincts. Silas is already different." Aaron listened silently. Then he dropped the crystal pendant Myra gave him. It was pulsing red. In the far forests, beneath the light of twin moons, robed figures chanted around a fire. Their tongues were not from Earth. Their leader wore no face, just a reflective mask made of old spaceship alloy, polished until it gleamed like a god's eye. They called themselves the First Flame. Their prophecy was clear. 3 stars shall fall. 1 shall rise, 1 shall burn, 1 shall flee, and the gate will open. They believed Silas was the one who shall rise. They believed the planet was not their final stop, but a gate to something far older. On the day of the blood moon, Silas stood before the people and accepted the ceremonial blade of their ancestors, a weapon etched with names that shouldn't be known on this planet. Vega, Seraphim, Titan Protocol. He raised the blade. "From today, we are not remnants. We are rulers, and our kingdom shall stretch beyond stars." They cheered. Only Leo stood still, his face pale with realization. He looked at Aaron. "He's opening the gate." "What gate?" "The one that brought them here." "The betrayal." The rain came heavy that night. Not like Earth's rain, no, this was thicker, almost oily, and faintly luminescent. It glowed violet in the cracks of the stone rooftops as the wind whispered things that weren't supposed to be words. Aaron stood beneath a canopy of stretched hides, staring at the torch-lit courtyard where Silas's army drilled. He saw boys with wide eyes being handed steel, girls with painted faces practicing formation. He saw devotion, the kind born not from love, but from fear. Leo burst through the flap of the hide tent, soaked and wild-eyed. "He's using the nanotech," he hissed, holding up a rusted data drive. Silas unlocked the quantum field protocol. He's conditioning them. You saw that boy in the crowd. He bowed before Silas before the command was even spoken. Aaron didn't look at him. "Maybe they need control," he said quietly. "Maybe chaos is worse." Leo blinked, stunned. "You're defending this?" Aaron's voice cracked. "I'm tired of being the weak one, Leo. Back on Earth, I was no one. Here, I'm something. I've seen what's out there in those woods. Maybe a king is what they need." Leo's hand dropped to his side. "I didn't come here to build empires. We were explorers." "Then go explore," Aaron said coldly, "before you become a threat." That night, while Leo uploaded genetic logs into the ship's core, he heard something move. Not the wind, not the planet, something human. He turned. A figure stood in the shadows, hooded in a cloak of animal skin, holding a crude dagger fashioned from broken solar panels. "You speak the language of the stars," she whispered. "We need you." "Who are you?" She pulled off her hood. It was Myra, the same villager who once smiled at him in the market. Now her face was burned, her eyes wild. "The flame rises. The gate must not open." She raised the blade. The struggle was quick and violent. Leo managed to block her first swing with a metal tray, but she was fast. Feral. She screamed in a language that buzzed in his ears like static. Aaron heard it. He came running. Too late. The dagger pierced Leo's side. Blood darkened his jumpsuit and he collapsed, eyes wide in disbelief. Mayra fled into the night. Aaron caught Leo as he fell. "Why?" Leo gasped. "You're going to be okay," Aaron lied. "You already chose him, didn't you?" Leo's eyes closed. Silas ordered a full manhunt for Mayra, not because Leo mattered, but because the attack was unsanctioned. "No chaos outside of my design," he said. The cult vanished underground. Aaron sat by Leo's side in the medical pod. He hadn't woken in 2 days. He looked at the cracked mirror on the wall. He saw himself. He saw the crown that Silas once joked about. He saw the blood on his hands. He punched the mirror until it shattered. The gate opens. The wind changed. It no longer whistled. It groaned. Low, like the breath of a god stirring in its sleep. Silas stood barefoot at the ridge of the Valley of Mourning, where bones stuck out of the earth like rusted keys in a broken lock. His cloak, stitched from the royal banners of 5 conquered clans, fluttered behind him as the sky dimmed, even though it was noon. In his hand, he held the orbital beacon core. Once a navigation module from their ship, now modified, now pulsing with the strange frequency of the planet itself. Behind him, his followers, an army of believers wrapped in iron and bone, chanted syllables not of human tongue. "You feel it?" Silas murmured to Aaron. Aaron said nothing. "This world wants something from us. It's not just a rock floating in space. It listens. It remembers." "And you're sure opening this gate won't destroy us?" Silas smiled. "Destruction is relative." He placed the beacon in the center of the stone circle. It sank into the ground with a hiss. The sky cracked open. Leo awoke to darkness. The room was damp, cold, and pulsing with a heartbeat that wasn't his. His wound had been crudely bandaged with vines and ash. His mouth was gagged. Around him, symbols had been carved into the mud walls. They glowed when he blinked. A figure stepped from the shadows. Mayra. She looked older now, or maybe just heavier with grief. "You shouldn't have come back," she whispered. "The gate is older than time. He's opening it. You can't let him." Leo coughed, blood in his mouth. "What is the gate?" Mayra touched the ground, revealing a hollow stone beneath. She lifted it slowly. Inside was a human skull, with 4 eye sockets. "Not a gate," she said. "A prison." The wind screamed now. Lightning struck in reverse, rising from the ground into the clouds. Aaron shielded his eyes as the stone circle cracked and from beneath it rose a structure. Not built. Grown. It looked like obsidian, but pulsed like muscle. A doorway yawned open in its center, blacker than space. Silas stepped forward. We were chosen. Not by fate, not by gods. By a system older than both. "And what if it wakes up angry?" Aaron asked. Silas turned. "Then let it rage." The memory of stars. The gate did not open. It peeled. Reality folded like soft paper, revealing something underneath. Something that had always been there. A silence so deep it vibrated in the bones. Aaron fell to his knees. The structure before him was no longer stone or flesh. It shifted constantly, like it couldn't decide which form to take. At one moment it was a cathedral, the next, a rib cage. Then a spire of light so tall it pierced the clouds. From within, something stepped out. Not a creature, not exactly. A silhouette made of flickering data and shimmering dust. A being of geometry and song. A voice without sound, entered Aaron's head. You have spoken the coordinates. You are the last generation. Flashback. Before the collapse, far beneath the surface, in the planet's memory lattice, Leo was seeing everything. The cult's machine, a chamber of alien glass and nerve-like tubing, had scanned his brain and uploaded him into what they called the archive. He saw their cities, tall, elegant, mathematical. He saw the fall, a virus of faith, a religion that spread through code. It changed their minds, their machines. It made them believe the stars themselves were divine. Then the wars began. Cults fractured. Armies formed. Planets were torn from orbit, repurposed into weapons. This world, Endara, had sealed its own god inside itself to protect the others. And now, they had awoken it. Leo came back with a scream. He thrashed on the table, ripping the vines, knocking over the projector. Mayra caught him by the shoulders. "You saw it." "It's not a gate, it's bait," Leo gasped. "It's designed to lure minds, curious ones, scientific ones, like ours. And Silas has opened it," she whispered. "Then we have to shut it." Aaron stood frozen as the entity approached. Its voice was inside him now, like 1,000 of his own thoughts echoing back. "You are the virus," it said gently. "You always were. You spread across stars and call it learning. You calculate worship. You dissect belief. You name everything but never understand. This is the cure." Aaron tried to step back. Couldn't. From behind, Silas spoke, his voice raw with joy. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" Before the burn. The wind on Endara's highest ridge howled with the sound of old machines awakening. Aaron couldn't move. The entity, if it could be called that, stood only feet away, ever shifting between shape and meaning. It wasn't threatening him. It was studying him, like a mirror trying to understand its own reflection. Behind him, Silas was smiling. Not the smile of a friend, not even a man. Something else was behind his eyes now. "We are meant for this," Silas whispered. "You feel it too, don't you, Aaron?" This world was waiting for us. Aaron's jaw tightened. "We weren't sent here. We chose to come." "Exactly," Silas said. "Choice is faith without chains. And look what we found. A mind older than our sun." The entity stepped forward and sang. No mouth, no voice, but the vibration shook the rock under Aaron's feet. The sound wasn't music. It was mathematics. Truth in waveform. Every nerve in his body understood it without translation. Open the others. Bring the rest. In the bowels of the archive, Leo's hands moved faster than he could think. Alien circuits, fluid-coded scripts, neural interfaces that had no buttons, only intent. Mayra watched him, breathless, as he reprogrammed the converter that once scanned his brain.